Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and we are joined by two people today. They are our special guest, and they are from Canaan Dog Alliance. So welcome to the episode, guys. How are you?
Hi, we're great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Brittany. We really appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about both of you, who you are and what you guys do.
Sure. My name is Hanna Faheem. I'm one of the co-founders of Canaan Dog Alliance, along with Quinn. We started this about a few years back, and this rescue organization is mainly focused on rescuing Canaan dogs from the Middle East.
Yeah, and I'm Quinn too. I'm also one of the co-founders and vice president of Canaan Dog Alliance. We wear many hats in this small nonprofit, and we're working, like Hannah said, to rescue dogs from the Middle East. We've also branched out to cats as well.
Oh, awesome. So you guys rescue dogs from the Middle East. So tell us a little bit about your mission. Tell us a little bit more about exactly what the nonprofit does.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're a U.S.-based nonprofit, and we dedicate our work to providing stray cats and dogs in the Middle East with a second chance at life. And our focus on this region is due to the lack of resources and funds and legal protection for animals. We unfortunately also up against societal perceptions that dogs, more specifically, are filth or evil. And due to these beliefs, oftentimes animals we support have a very difficult start in life, and are often subjected to abuse, abandonment, and neglect.
And how did you guys start the nonprofit? What was kind of the motivator here?
So I had come across, I would say back in 2018, an organization that was rescuing animals in Jordan. And I knew very little at the time about what was going on in terms of animal welfare in the region. But when I found out about just how bad it can be for dogs, I reached out and I became a volunteer for this organization. And then fast forward 2 years later, Quinn kind of came into the picture with her story, and that's kind of how we came to be. But Quinn, I'm sure you want to mention how you came about to be part of this too.
Yeah, so back in 2019, end of the summer, I actually went to Jordan as a tourist with a friend, and we were visiting all the sites, and we were visiting Petra, and it was there throughout because at that time I was probably in Jordan for about 3 or 4 days. Didn't know or see any strays at that time until I came to Petra, and they're flooded with dogs and cats, and there I found a litter of puppies that were about 4 months old. And actually, 2 of them are right here. And they're, as you can kind of see, I didn't want to leave these dogs behind. They were malnourished. They were sick. One of them was sick. And so I literally, just something within inside me said, you can't leave them. You have to do something about it. So me and my friend literally put them in our backpack and hiked them out of the canyon. We took them to a vet for treatment. And we met where we contacted a person named Leo, who was the founder of the organization that Hannah was volunteering for. And long story short, we brought them over to the States. I kept 2. I found families for the other 2. And then I also wanted to do some volunteer work for the organization. And that's how I met Hannah. And we wanted to create a sister US-based organization to support the organizations in the Middle East, because there really wasn't any. They were all trying to find homes from overseas, which is very difficult. And so when we knew that there was this need, Hannah and I were like, let's do this. So
That's awesome.
We created the organization.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you see all the time people who are like on vacation, they're posting on like TikTok and Instagram, like, oh, look at these cute little strays. And that's kind of it. They don't really take it any further. So that's amazing that you kind of had that, you had that compassion and that wherewithal to not only bring those four home, but then to start something even bigger, because you were able to realize that problem. So that's great. How do you guys normally find out about the dogs that are in need?
So when we first started, it was mainly through our sister organizations. They have, they're amazing. They work tirelessly around the clock. They've established rescue sanctuaries where they are currently, and that's where they house the dogs. So with communicating with them, they'll let us know which dogs they feel have the best chance at being adopted in the U.S. And from that point on, we would then search for the right home. But as we've grown, we've actually started having locals who are animal advocates, they're not part of any rescue. They're just, good Samaritans who reach out to us about cases that they like for us to assist them with. So it's both through our sister organizations as well as Good Samaritan locals.
Okay. And then once you guys find out about the dogs, how does the process work for getting them over to the United States? Because I feel that would be a lot of logistics, obviously a lot of money that you guys are helping with. So what does that process look like?
Well, first we have to find the families. So when we figure out who's kind of in the pipeline for adoption, we post them on our adoption websites. So I'm sure you're familiar with Adopt a Pet and Pet Finder.
Mm-hmm.
And and people will reach out to us via the admin account or sometimes directly through those websites. And we used to do everything together. Now we kind of branched apart and we'll take different applicants, and we'll interview them. We have a little bit of a longer adoption process because these dogs are obviously coming from overseas. We want them to have a high success of just working well with the family, fitting the dog's needs, personalities. And once we've completed all those steps, then we try to either find a flight volunteer or we ship the dog cargo. There's a little bit of a caveat. So when we first started our organization back in 2020, when we were ready to bring dogs over, June 2021, the CDC put a 1-year ban on dogs coming into the United States internationally.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So we unfortunately were like, what are we going to do now? So we kind of had to pivot. But June 2022, the ban kind of lifted, but we had to go through a very extensive process with the CDC to make sure that a dog could come in. And what that looks like is the dog has to get a rabies titer test to prove that they're actually vaccinated for rabies. That can take a couple of weeks. Then once we get all of those documents, we file for an import permit request, which we submit that to the CDC. And then that can take about 6 to 8 weeks to bring a dog, to get an approval so we can bring a dog in.
Okay, that's pretty lengthy. I didn't really think about the CDC requirements, and I don't think a lot of people do. So you guys are really going above and beyond for these dogs, which that's amazing. And whenever I know you're finding the family kind of first, are there instances where maybe you're not placing dogs with a family, but are you placing them ever with like rescues that are in the United States?
We haven't had to do that yet.
Okay.
We do have a boarding facility that we're associated with that have been amazing in supporting us because we don't have a shelter. So they've been really great with accommodating our dogs that may have, need a transition period or time to decompress prior to being placed in the home, or are just kind of in a transition state in their life. So we don't really work with bringing our rescues to other rescue organizations, but rather our boarding facility.
Okay. And then as far as individuals who want to adopt, like maybe they don't have a specific dog that they're looking at, but they're just interested and kind of want to be maybe updated of dogs you guys are getting in. Is there any kind of like newsletter or like, is there like a process to kind of get in line to adopt?
We do have people who reach out to us and they just say, hey, we saw your website, or we looked at your dogs, and, they don't have a specific desire, but they say, hey, these are the types of personality traits or criteria that we're looking for. If they have kids or maybe like grandparents living at home or other existing animals in the house, we try our best to listen to the applicant's needs and match a personality. We'll sometimes lean on our sister organizations to recommend dogs to us.
Mhm.
But yeah, like we are in the process of updating our website, which in the future will also have a profile picture of the dog or cat, and then a template that has all of the different personality criteria or things that would be important for an owner to know about the dog, so that someone could easily go to our website, and then be able to say, oh, these are the dogs that we have.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot with both our two sister organizations. And so we would like to show all of the dogs that are under their care, and to be able to just easily, click the photo and then submit a request to our admin email.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then as far as adopting, so they do see a dog that they want, and whenever they reach out for the adoption process, um, and then I know every adoption process is different. This dog might be okay in a home with kids. This one might need to be an only dog. What does, in a nutshell, what does the adoption process kind of look like for you guys once you get that applicant, and you receive their information?
So we start off with a preliminary interview where we just kind of get to know the person, and it gives us a better idea of their lifestyle and what type of dog would fit best in their home. After that, we do vet reference and reference checks, followed by a follow-up call and a home check. If all goes well and everyone feels like this is the right fit, then we would then offer them the opportunity to sign a foster agreement, because we recognize that, considering the distance and the fact that these our candidates cannot meet their dogs prior to fostering them, we've established a trial period of a few months where the person or the family can see if it's the right fit before making it official. So if we all feel like everything's going in the right direction, that family or adopter would sign the foster agreement. And then that's when, the logistics come into place, and, we start the process of the titer test, the CDC application, and arranging for transport.
Okay. Right now, are you guys currently working on any projects, or do you guys currently have adoptable dogs?
Yes. So back in July, I went to Jordan to officially meet our partners in person, because we had been only communicating through Zoom and WhatsApp, just to be able to see their operations. And I also selfishly wanted to meet some of the dogs that we had been talking about, and or just what they also post on their social media platforms.
Mhm.
And, I would see some of the dogs in person, kind of get a feel for them. But then also, I would meet a couple of new cases. For instance, there was a litter of puppies that got rescued in the early spring. They were in just pretty much a foster area. And I was like, these dogs should also be in the pipeline, because they meet really good criteria. They're good with people. They just have a good opportunity. So we, so in some cases, we in person will also say, hey, these dogs should be adoptable. But then also, we just try to stay as up to date with our sister organizations and see if, they also rescue a mom in a litter, or just, maybe a dog that was rescued off the streets because of injury, hit by a car or something, and they get rehabilitated. They fit, to be able to be adopted as well.
Mhm. Do you have kind of an estimate of how many dogs are waiting for their permanent homes or waiting for placement?
Between
All of them.
There's probably between the two organizations around 80 or more that are
Oh,
looking
wow.
still. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
also we do have a little side project that Hannah and I wanted to share. So we were contacted by a woman named Terry, who also is in Florida. I forget where she's from, but she also works with shelters, and she runs her own organization called, I think it's Great Pyrenees Rescue. But she also does work with animal control at high kill shelters. And she reached out to us maybe about a month ago, just before Christmas, and asking all the organizations that she could find along the East Coast to take dogs who were on the next list to be euthanized. And, of course, we wanted to help. So we rescued 4 dogs. They were transported just before Christmas. They're actually at our boarding facility that we partner with. One was already adopted, and we're in the process of putting those remaining 3 on Pet Finder and to try to find them homes. These dogs were, from what we gathered, were impacted by the hurricanes that happened this year.
Yeah, the Florida shelters are very full. The shelters, humane societies, rescues, even our animal control facilities, they're all so full. So that's awesome that you guys were able to take some of those, and one of those already got adopted. That's exciting.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see. And it was just right before Christmas, so the dog was able to join the family for Christmas. It was lovely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What needs do you guys currently have right now as a nonprofit? I mean, most nonprofits almost always need, of course, donations. So what are some of those needs that you guys have that people could fill?
I think mainly, aside from, of course, donations, because those are, what propel all of our missions, our fosters, people to volunteer to take in a dog, even temporarily, or a cat, would be so amazing for us, especially because a lot of these animals, they have a better shot at being adopted if they're already here or people can meet them. So, anyone who's interested in becoming a foster would be such a great help.
And can the fosters be anywhere in the United States, or do you guys kind of have some restraints on where they should be located?
We've adopted out to people outside of the outside of the East Coast, so we're open to it as long as it's the right fit, and we can,
Okay.
of course, make the logistics happen.
Okay. And then as far as donations, can people go to your website to make those? Is there a place for them to put in, a credit card or like a PayPal link?
Yeah, we have our PayPal connected to our website.
And what's your website?
It's CanaanDog-Alliance.org.
And will you spell that for the listeners? Because I know how to spell it, but I could see how other people might mess it up.
Sure. It's CANAAN dog-alliance ALLIANCE.org.
And then are you guys on any social media platforms, Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, we're also on Instagram. I would say that's probably primarily where we're the most active. And it's very similar to our website, where it's Canaan Dog _Alliance.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for all of the work that you're doing. And thank you guys for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for providing this opportunity for us to share what we do.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.